More than 2 months ago, after 401 days sailing and cruising the Caribbean, I hauled out and put my sailboat Adventureborne into dry dock. Then I left the country. Many thought I'd had enough, selling my sailboat and forever done with the sailing life. Come on, you'd have to be crazy to think I'd give all this up. No, I just had a few other adventures I had to get on. Though, it was some much needed time away, for a few important reasons.
For the past decade, I've been solo traveling around the world, facing all of life's adventures head on, locking horns and creating harmony with nature, and disrupting the mold to help others experience life in its richest, rawest form. Welcome to my life of adventure. Let's dive on in. Oh, it is good to be back. This is my first time back to the sailboat in over 2 months, and look at her. Still there, right where I left her. And you hear in the background the sounds of a busy working boatyard. So I had to leave for a while, and I didn't post any content, so let's get into it. So it's been 2 months since I posted any sort of real content outside of my major goals, which we'll get into later. The last video I posted showed what my boat looked like after being in the water for 401 days straight. And this video, I'm gonna be going over what happened the past 2 months, what a boat looks like after being on the hard for 2 months, because it does look a little different. And also what's going on, what happened with the adventures, what travels did I get into, and what is next. Let's get into it. In this video, I'm gonna go over what my boat looks and smells like after 2 months on the hard, why it was so important for me to leave my sailboat, and what happened when I returned to my hometown after 5 years away, how many adventures I got onto, and who I met in Tenerife, the incredible road trip I had across Spain. And then I want to tell you about the major life lessons I learned while I was away. They're going to propel me into my next journey. Let's dive on in. All right, so this is my first time back up onto the boat here, and there's a few things to notice. After 2 months. It feels good to be home. I can finally put my backpack down. So, taking a quick look, you might notice there's a bunch of stuff here. I do that intentionally just to add a little bit more trouble if somebody does want to break into my boat. Honestly, like I've said before, Clark's Court is an incredibly safe boat yard, so I'm really not worried about it. But hey, you know what? It's my home. I'm gonna put a little bit of extra defense here. So when you leave a boat on the hard like this, you might think it's completely safe, and you're sort of right, it is safe, but it can still mold and mildew, and water can get in weird places, things can rot, things can dry too much. This wasn't cracked when I left, but now it's got this big arch to it. The weather really plays a huge role in that. I suppose if you could choose, you'd want some place with like a coolish temperature and as little humidity. But instead what we have here is a ton of humidity, a ton of heat, and apparently it's also then been super hot, no wind, and really dry lately. And that can be a dangerous combination. So I'm gonna take a look at the boat real quick and assess whatever sort of little bit of damage there might be since I've been gone. Because I'm already seeing one, and I think I already see number 2 here. This has chafed through, against the back of the boom. Look at that, right through there. Just the tiniest little bit. It's not even that abrasive. So these things happen, it's not the end of the world. I also noticed that the bungee that would normally keep it down has broken as well. That would have prevented it from doing that little bit of touching that it's doing there. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but hey, it happens. Coming up the rest of the boat here, I'm noticing dust on it and dirt, because this is a working boat yard, so it's gonna be a bit dirty. And check this out. This is some mold. Yeah, this stuff, wow, quite a bit of it too, all up here. I'm not sure why it settled in this particular area, and then you look right here and there's none of it. But you know what, that just happens. There's not much you can do about it. And I would just say that as soon as I hit the ocean, that stuff's gonna go away really quick. Again, go with my ethos of if it looks good from a drone, it's good enough for me. But whoa, look at this. This thing dried out completely and pulled itself apart. That looks like, wow. Remember, I've only been gone for 2 months and this already happened. I think it's just the extreme change in humidity that probably did this, as well as all the extra heat. Now, The anchor looks all right. Let's check down in here. Yeah, you know what? Before I left, I sprayed this with an anti-rust thing. I forget what it was. You have to watch the other video. But I'm really happy that I did, because look at the difference of this and then that. Look how cracked that is. That looks terrible. Look at this. I can probably pull off the rust. So it just goes to show you, yeah, you really want to use that. There's not too much else up here that could go wrong. Yeah, the wood, of course, looks ugly. That happens out on the open ocean as well. Nothing I could really do there. Here's the other half of my bungee. This bungee just isn't very UV resistant, as well as a little bit of pulling, you know, from the wind. It's just gonna do that to it. The solar panels look pretty good, actually. Not a ton of dust collected on them or like water droplets, so I'm happy to see that. Looks like it's all together. Outside of the boat really doesn't look too bad. I was already gonna replace that up there anyway when I do some fiberglass work on the back of the swim platform. So I'll have to do that again anyway. The dinghy, still holding air, feeling rigid, looking good. There's no clogs from to clog up any water from leaving. That's very important. Still got the lock on here, and yep, I did not even bother locking my dinghy to my boat, but that's okay. Obviously I did not need to. That would have been a pretty big operation for someone to do here. Let's take a look inside now and see how things look in here. Wow, look at all the dust and dirt that accumulated in here. Like I said before, this is a working boatyard. It is blisteringly hot in here. I mean, I am just covered in sweat right now. This is gonna have to come off. This all looks really good down here, and there's a big reason why too. I had a good friend of mine, Jay Safro. I did a sailboat tour video of his boat, Frida Kai. You can check that out. He's a great guy, and he helped me out while I was gone, and he was able to be here. So he came in, opened the boat up, let some air get in, and that helped a lot. But the smell, you guys, it smells like an old man. You know what I'm talking about, that musky kind of smell. But anyway, it smells like an old sailor in here, straight up. And I think now I can say without a doubt that the smell comes from the boat, not from the sailor. I always thought it came from the man, but no, it actually comes from the boat. Yeah, not too much I can do about that besides get the airflow going. You gotta think, when this boat is out sailing normally, I've got so much air going through here every day with all these hatches open. So my good buddy Jay did me a huge favor. He turned on my refrigerator the day before I got back so I could put my groceries in as I came back from the airport. However, I noticed the compressor was running, but there was absolutely nothing cold in the fridge. So I just recharged the system here. So I've got a fan on it trying to cool it down. I can't quite keep my hand on there, so it's pretty hot. It's not burning my hand, but I can't keep it there. If we look in the fridge, I've got my groceries. Got a nice layer of ice developing, not the whole cold plate. So there's still something wrong with this compressor. I gotta tell you guys, I'm kind of over it. This is a huge electrical draw for me on the boat. Really stressing my system and really stressing me out and the food out. So looking at this as I was fixing it, I'm really inclined to just go with a small Dometic, like one of the ones I have up in my cockpit. That thing is still going with solid ice in it since I left. Yeah, that's pretty great. And I would probably just put a small unit in here and then a small unit in there. And that would give me about the same amount of space as what's in there right now. It'd be more reliable. And if I ever had a problem with one, well, then I'd have two backups to keep things cold. We'll see. There's a lot of things I may or may not do. Looking at everything else in the boat, it looks really good. I do notice some dust around. Looking at everything else in the boat, I mean, is exactly where I left it. I purposely spread everything out so that way we would get lots of air and nothing would mildew in here. Aft cabin, everything looks good. Also, check this out. My batteries are nice and topped up, 209.94. So I've set my batteries so each one will only hold 210 amp hours, usable amp hours of electricity. That's my capacity, and that gives me this buffer above them. Now remember, that was a little bit of a concern when I left the boat. Is my lithium batteries gonna blow up? I didn't think so. These are lithium ion cobalt instead of lithium ion phosphate. Phosphate gives you a lot more capacity, but they're very volatile, and you really gotta know what you're doing with those ones. So it does feel kind of strange being back after 2 months and really living on the road, but I got a lot done and had some great adventures. Let's get into that. Okay, so the boat's all still in one piece. I'm happy with that. Now, over to the bigger question, why did I leave my sailboat? A lot of people actually thought that I was gonna sell my sailboat, but I can't imagine myself doing that. I've thought about it many times, but the truth is that all the sports, all the adventures I can do from this, a sailboat really is the best adventure platform in my opinion. It's my home. It's the sustainable, produces its own electricity. I grow my own food. I catch my own food. It kind of just does it all for me, which is really cool. But as I'm editing right now a major, not even video, but movie, a 90+ minute movie, it's going to be about the last 401 days it took me to get from Florida all the way down to here. It really took it out of me. It really burned me out. And so that's ultimately why I needed to take 2 months away from the boat, is I was burnt out. I needed a refreshed perspective, and this wasn't like I waited 400 days before I decided I was burnt out. I knew I was going to be burnt out before I got here. Probably like 7 or 8 months into my trip, I knew I was going to be pretty burnt out. But what started as a pretty simple plan quickly turned adventurous. So here's how it all happened. This trip for me started off as soon as I left Grenada. They took my pointy tweezers, which bothered me to no end, which for someone like me who's used to such freedom all the time, it was really strange. I really didn't like it, honestly, but hey, it's what I had to go through to do my traveling. So I flew into Albany, New York, near my hometown in Greenwich and Argyle. These are very rural areas, and driving the back roads to get to them was really great for me. I got this huge sense of nostalgia, but I got there, I was able to spend time with my parents and go see the surrounding area. These are places that really made me into the person that I am, which to go back to them and kind of put myself in that younger mindset, looking at what I've done, where I've been, what I've accomplished over the last decade really of almost constant travel was really cool. And it really gave me this refreshed perspective that I needed. I need to remember that what I'm doing is amazing, but when you do amazing things every day, it usually can kind of feel normal, actually, funny enough. On this trip, I also got to see some childhood friends and people that were really formative in developing really who I am today. That for me was great, again, reinforcing this younger perspective that I had. And it really brings me back to being very happy with the decisions that I've made so far, which made the trip worth it all in of itself, as well as I got to see my parents, and I was extremely grateful for that. I will say the high notes of being there was seeing my parents, catching up with friends, and then going back to these swim holes, these waterfalls, and these different other areas that usually involve swimming in one way or another. But the very last day I was there, this happened. While trying to help a family friend who owns, no joke, a zoo and a place I sort of grew up at, we accidentally let out one of the emus up a mountain. And of course we had to go after him. So this is some footage of me tracking down, grabbing and hand wrestling an emu, which is actually about as hard as you would think it is. Both myself and my dad got injuries from this. I nearly got disemboweled. He tore my shirt open and thankfully only grazed my stomach. And then afterwards, we went over and we fed this Eurasian eagle owl. And that was super cool. It's the largest owl species in the world. And to be this close to them is really just a priceless experience. And again, kind of funny, it feels like wherever I go, adventure finds me if I'm not searching for it. And this was certainly that case. I didn't expect this at all. It was really some chance meetings, but I'm so happy it happened. It was really cool seeing this. If you want to see more, I really recommend checking out the Asheville Game Farm. If you want to see more, I'd really recommend checking them out. The link will be in the description below. After all that, I hopped a flight and headed to Tenerife. Tenerife is the most populated of the Canary Islands, and it's a huge vacation destination for many Europeans in particular, often referred to as the Caribbean of Europe. I was gonna be on Tenerife for about a month and a half, and I spent a lot of that time seeing a good friend of mine. We hung out a lot, did a lot of kiteboarding and other adventure stuff, but honestly I took absolutely no footage. The other main purpose for me to be on Tenerife is to be away from my boat and away from where I grew up in a space that I could just think. I've been very directionless over the last year, and I realized how important it was for me to regroup myself and think about what goals I want to chase after. And after spending about a week alone in a farmhouse up on top of the mountain, this is what I came up with. These are the 3 plans that I came together that will encompass my life for the next 5 years. The first one, the grand plan, goes over where I'm going to be. The second one, Adventureman Dan goals, covers really what I'm doing on a day-to-day. This doing social media is my full-time job, and it's a lot of work, so it'll be good to have these goals. And the last one, my personal goals, is exactly that. My personal goals for my own personal improvement, something that I've become very focused on over the last few years. The first one, the grand plan, goes over these 10 major steps that I'm going to be doing. The first one, Grenada to Colombia, is going to be heading up and around the Caribbean and then south out of Dominican Republic, down all the way to Colombia. Now, each one of these is sort of their own major trip in and of themselves, obviously, and that's why I've broken them down, and I'm also allowing myself space for what I call side quests. Because the main thing that I've realized after all this time I spent away from the boat was how sailing 24/7, 365 really is not as happy as sailing maybe 8 months out of the year, 6 months out of the year. I don't think any less than that though. I think sailing's still pretty great. But it's just really hard to appreciate how amazing this lifestyle is when you do it every single day without a break. I gotta say that taking this time away from the boat has really made me excited to come back and do all the things that I love doing. And that's the plan to keep going forward, is to be more engaged, more focused, more excited for what I have planned, instead of like, oh, I guess I should go kiteboarding today because, you know, the wind is up. Oh, I guess I need some food. I better go spearfishing. No, instead it should be, yeah, I get to go kiteboarding today. All right, you know, the conditions are good. Let's go spearfish and see what we get out there today. At least that's the plan. So the major trips after that are pretty self-explanatory. South America, Western Caribbean, Central America, Corpus Christi to Seattle, Southeast Alaska, Seattle to Southern California cruising, Baja down the West Coast, and then up the Sea of Cortez. Now, you might notice that I stopped after that. The truth is, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing after that, so that'll be exciting in and of itself. And then you'll also see that I have all the side quests listed out here of just other things that I'm really passionate, interested in, because on this trip I got to do a lot of things I don't normally do, and I really want to keep that up. The Adventureman Dan goals are probably some of my toughest. Doing this lifestyle is already difficult enough as it is, with so many hobbies and passion that keeps me occupied constantly. But then on top of it, to be recording them is a little bit difficult, but really difficulty lies in editing all of this. As you've obviously seen, I haven't been online for the last 2 months. And I gotta say, I'm really happy that I've done that. And I plan on doing that more as time goes on, though I'd like to have videos edited for the future so I can just take the time off but still be producing quality content. This whole goal sheet is to outline that and really where I plan to take my focus and my direction. I debated whether or not to put this last one online because, as it says at the title, it is my personal goals. And I will say there's a few things that I do plan to do that aren't on here because I do still need to maintain a certain sense of self. Yes, I'm Adventureman Dan when I'm posting stuff online, but I'm Daniel Byrne actually in real life. That's my real life name. And I plan on sticking with that, is keeping these two things separate. So I'm really excited to see, as I pursue each and every one of these, the person I could become in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years. And I'm really excited to be crossing off not just personal goals, but the other ones as well. And I posted all this online as well to get other people excited. And I had a lot of people message me saying that they're gonna write up something similar and do it. And I think that's great. I met Greta while I was on the island, and together we had an absolute blast. It completely changed the trip. I don't want to say it derailed it because that would make it sound bad. No, it just changed my trip for the better. We explored throughout the entire island of Tenerife, places I never would have gone to on my own. That was fantastic, but more so what happened when we flew to Spain. After a little bit of coordination, she figured she'd get some time off of work and work on the road. So, long story short, we ended up planning a 10-day road trip together. And I gotta say, I'm so happy that I did it. During the time before Greta flew in to join me, I actually got to explore all around Madrid on my own, and I gotta say, it's my favorite city I've ever been to. And then I met up with Greta, and together her and I started this amazing road trip. I'm just gonna roll a montage and then tell you guys a little bit about it after, so enjoy.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Got it. We don't need no more. Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through and through. No limit to what we can do. let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
Down. Sit. You don't know sitting. You don't speak English. You're a non-English speaking, lovable killer dog. These things are These things are monsters, and this one has nails on his spiked collar. If these things were hostile. Our last moment together, after we finally got through the Ryanair ridiculousness. They have the worst setup. Some of the people are nice, but they're just terrible airlines.
I fought them for him.
She did. It was great in Spanish. Couldn't tell what was going on, but I knew she was winning. I hate this airline. Whew. That was a lot. Yeah, I can't believe it was only 10 days. So eventually the road trip came to an end and Greta and I had to part ways. And I gotta say, that's when this part of my journey that I'm technically sort of still on happened. I remembered why I love my sailboat again. There was a problem every leg of my journey to get back here. And while I'm editing this video right now, I'm sleep deprived, delirious, jet lagged. The amount of editing I'm having to do already to get this video to make sense is gonna be an absolute nightmare. But here's the short version. Ryanair is the worst airline you can fly. I do not recommend them. They messed everything up. They were incredibly unhelpful. Yeah, that was a funny moment for me. I had to take a bus then, a couple hours, and just barely made it. I was just stressed. I go to check in the morning, and British Airways tells me, like, it's no one's fault. Oh yeah, we overbooked your flight, so you might not have a ticket. Go talk to them or whatever. But instead, we circled Barbados for an hour because of a storm, and then had to land in Trinidad. And I got to have fun messing around this morning in the Barbados International Airport. And believe me, I made the most of my time there. A lot of shenanigans, I'll just say that. A lot of shenanigans. But I put a lot of smiles on some people's faces. And then this morning I finally got on the flight, finally got here, went through customs, and I literally just arrived not a couple hours ago here back in Grenada. I'm so happy to be back on my boat, so happy to be done with all of this. Now that I'm finally back, what's the plan? The plan is simply this. I will be working on my boat until October 28th. On October 28th, this boat goes back in the water, already prepaid by Clark's Court. And I want to say again, big shout out to Clark's Court. They've come over to check up on me since I've been here. Really, Jose came over to check up on me, who's the yard manager, and the guy is great. But the main thing I'm gonna be doing now, after a little bit of rest, is getting a list together of what I need to be working on most, what my priority list is. Every day is probably gonna be super sweaty like right now, and that's just life. I can't get away from that. I could, I suppose, get an apartment somewhere nearby, but it's not part of the budget, and this is why I could afford the trip I just did, because I'm going to be living on my boat for the next month, and I know it's going to be miserable, because I've done it before. Such is life. You got to learn to grit and bear these difficult moments so you can have amazing moments like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and really, you want to look forward to this massive movie I'm going to be making soon. I think it's going to give a great example of what the sailing lifestyle can be like. Stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next adventure. Cheers. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. I hope you feel inspired to begin adventures of your own. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. For an exclusive, in-depth look at this adventure lifestyle, and to further support my channel, become a member of my Patreon crew. Link in the description. I'll see you on the next adventure.